Hi, and welcome to my channel where I love to do all types of DIYs, everything from home updating projects to budget-friendly DIY home decor. If these are things you're interested in, then I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button and become part of my DIY family. I've got this large and small terracotta pot, and I picked these up from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to start with the small terracotta pot, and I'm going to paint that in the color Brook. This is a fusion all-in-one paint. Sorry if you hear some noise in the background. That's just my dog. She's overly excited right now. But we're going to go ahead and paint the outside and the inside, one complete coat. And with these molds, you want to make sure you put some cornstarch down first. That way they're easier to remove. And my clay was feeling a little cold and a little stiff. It needed to be warmed up some just to make it a little more pliable. So that's why I rub it in between my hands. Then I'm just going to press that down into the molds that I want. And then with the micro rim that I.O.D puts on these, it really makes it so much easier to push that clay out. And then I'm just going to take a little tool and scrape off the top, just making it flat. Then we're just going to flip that tray over and wiggle those molds out. And they come out pretty easy. I kind of have to wiggle the tray a little bit, but I'm just going to pick random leaves and acorns out of the, I believe it's called the leaf and acorn mold. I had just picked this up recently, and I will put a link in the description box. And once I've got all those molds out, I'm just going to kind of get an idea of where I want to place them. My idea is to have them just kind of drooped over the top like it's growing out of the top of a pumpkin. And so I just take some glue, and I am using the Quick and Thick Tight Bond glue, and when I mold those, I try not to push too hard because I don't want to flatten out any of the beautiful details. I may have flattened out a few here and there. This was kind of my first time trying to bend the molds, but I went ahead and glued those on, made sure they were on nice and tight, and just came up with an arrangement that suited my eyesight. But you guys just do this the way you want. I took some of those acorns and I kind of drooped them down and just had fun with it. And then I didn't quite make enough molds, so I went back in and just added some more cornstarch, and I'm going to go ahead and use this one leaf here. It's got the acorns attached to it, and just repeat the process, just trying to fill up all around the edge of my terracotta pot, or actually the bottom of the terracotta pot, which is now going to be the top of the terracotta pot. Now this mold was a little trickier. I was worried it was going to break because it's so dainty, but it held up fine. And just gonna again take that Tight Bond Quick and Thick glue. I smooth it out with my fingers. I should probably designate a brush for this because this stuff really sticks to your fingers, and then that cornstarch powder and the clay just kind of adheres to your fingertips, as you can see on mine. And you see I just kind of use my whole hand just to kind of lay that down. Next, I'm going to take some Summer Crush from D.I.Y, and I'm going to paint the orange part of that terracotta pot that is showing. And in some spots, I can use this larger brush, but in other spots, I will have to use a smaller brush just to get in between those clay molds. And it's okay if you get any on the clay because we're going to go back over those with different color. And for that color, we're just going to take Layered Chocolate from D.I.Y Paint, and I'm going to paint all the acorns in this color. And I'm also going to paint the stems that are coming up from the leaves in that color. And for the leaves themselves, I just painted all of those in Monet's Garden from D.I.Y Paint. Okay, so I was feeling that those colors were not working for me, so I'm going to take some Malechite and I'm going to go over the leaves by Waverly Chalk Paint. And then I'm going to take some Summer Crush and I'm just going to kind of dab in certain spots on the leaves. I'm just trying to make these look like they are changing colors for the fall. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of yellow. This is Maize from Waverly Chalk Paint. And I'm just going to kind of dab those also on the leaves. And then I was needing a lighter brown, so I took some vintage linen and layered chocolate, just kind of mixed that together. And then I went over the bottom parts of the acorns with that color. And then I'm just going to take the spindle that I cut in half and put that on the top, right in the center with some hot glue. And so I'm just going to take some Mossy Meadow, this is a Folkart color, and I'm going to go over those leaves, just kind of dabbing the paint on there. And I'm not trying to cover the whole leaf. I still want some of that orange exposed and maybe even some of the green coming through. Like I said, these leaves are changing colors, so that's the look I'm going for. And now I am working on these acorns. I'm going to take some Territorial Beige from Applebarrel and I'm going to go ahead and go back over the bottoms of the acorn with that color. I just wanted something more light brown. That mixture I did earlier was just a little too gray toned for me, and this color worked out perfectly. And I'm even going to take that brush and lightly kind of make some streaks through those stems, just kind of highlighting them. And then I've got this smaller, rough, bristled type of chippy brush, I guess you could call it. And I'm going to take some Nutmeg from Applebarrel, and I'm just going to kind of dab that over the top part of the acorns. And this color worked out very well, very, very well. I believe I went over them twice just to kind of brighten them up a little bit because that brown color is just so dark. And then with that nutmeg brown color, I am just going to kind of dab that color onto the leaves as well. I thought, you know, I see brown, I see yellows, I've seen oranges, lighter color tones of green in fall leaves. And also with the Mossy Meadow, I'm just going to kind of dab that over just to kind of blend those colors. And then with my wax brush that has a little bit of brown on it, I'm going to take some clear wax and go over the whole thing. And I'm just going to buff it in. And I'm also going to put a little bit on the inside of the pot as well. Next, we're just going to go ahead and take some hot glue and then just put some Spanish moss around the top. And then I'll trim off any excess as I feel needed. Okay, now going back to the one that we painted in Brook, I went ahead and put the little spindle on it. Next, I'm just going to take some brown wax. This is the Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax. And I'm just going to go over the blue terracotta pot. And I think this worked out so well. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, you could have left it the same color if you didn't want to do that. Then we're going to go ahead and put some Spanish moss on top. Now I'm just going to take some covered wire that I had picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to twist that around the small detailed paintbrush that I have, just making it have those little curly cues. And then I'm just going to stick that on the top of that pot with some hot glue, and I'm going to go ahead and make 2 of these for the top. Then I just have a little extra piece that came off a pick that I had gotten from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to add that to the top as well. There we go. Isn't that so pretty? Let me know what you think about those 2 terracotta pumpkins. Okay, I've got this little mini Bundt pan. I went ahead and sprayed it with a clear coat because I want to paint it. I got some new colors to try out. I got Summer Crush. Just want to see how this looks. I'm excited. I've been wanting to get my hands on this color. And then I'm just going to take that paint and give this tin one full coat, and I'm going to make sure I get the inside and the outside of it. And I should have left a little clearing here for that spindle to stick without that paint interfering. So I just went ahead and scraped away some of that paint. Since this is a clay-based paint, it's really easy to scrape off before you seal it. And then I just want to go ahead and apply a clear wax all over the pumpkin, and I do the inside and the outside of it. And this clear wax is from D.I.Y paint brand, and I get all of my D.I.Y and I.O.D products from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs, and she will be linked in my description box. And next I'm going to grab a brown wax, and this is Dixie Belle's Best Staying Wax, and I'm just going to apply that in the grooves of the pumpkin. I'm just taking the same brush that I used for the white wax and just kind of buffing in the brown. Okay, that just gives it some depth and actually makes it look a little bit more realistic, if you ask me, because pumpkins are generally not one color. And because we put that clear wax on, first we can wipe off as much of that brown as we want. So if you feel you got too much along the raised parts, like I feel I do, yet leave it in the creases there, and just wipe back however much you want to wipe back. That is so pretty. All right. And you know, something that these would be cute is to make a bell out of. With a long spindle, you can make a little bell. Wouldn't that be adorable? Oh. And then next, I'm just going to take some hot glue, and I'm going to put that spindle on the top of the tin. And you know it's going to need some Spanish moss, so I am going to take that with some hot glue, and I'm just going to put along the top of that what is now a pumpkin around that spindle, and I am using my finger protectors because I don't feel like burning myself. And then just give it a little trim, whatever floats your boat. And that's all there is to this one. See how simple that is? And it's so freaking adorable. That definitely looks store-bought. What do you guys think about that one? Okay, and I know on a couple videos, maybe last video, a couple videos ago, I made one of these yarn pumpkins, but that video's got very little views. I don't know what's going on in the YouTube world, if people are just subscribed and end up really not watching. I don't know what's going on. So if you guys can help a girl out and share my videos, that would be great. I appreciate it. But anyway, I made a yarn pumpkin. I'm going to make another one because on my Whatnot show last week, both of them sold. People love these things and they are so fun to make. So I'm going to take some packing paper. I like to shove mine in there and then just kind of make a center so they'll be sticking to anything but the yarn. And I'm just going to start by prepping everything that I want to put in the center of the yarn. As far as the peduncle part, I've just got this little salvaged piece of spindle wood that I got. And I ended up cutting just a little bit more of that paper so I can put down in the center of the yarn. And now I'm just going to go ahead and shove some moss in there. I don't use any glue. And then I'm just going to take some hot glue on my spindle piece and put that in the center. And then just going to take the flowers and I'm going to hot glue my little red flowers and my orange flowers in there. And then I'm just going to take this longer pick, and I don't use any glue for this one because I left the stem long enough and I just shove it on in there. And then this project will be complete. So I've got 3 pieces of 2 by 2 here. They are 9 inches in length, and I am going to start by taking the 2 end ones and applying some wood glue to one side of each of those. And I just use my fingers just to smooth it out. I want to make sure all that wood's covered so I get a good contact, and then I will smush them into that middle piece. I just got a straight edge here. Just going to push them down till they are all even. Then I'll take some clamps. And we're going to let that dry for about 20 minutes. Okay, while that wood piece is drying down, I've got some chiffon in a cream color, and I've got some lace in like a cream color. So I'll take the short end, which is 20 inches long, and I'm just going to cut a few pieces into 1-inch strips. Then I've got this lace. Gorgeous lace. I'm going to go ahead and cut that down to 20 inches. And then I'm just going to cut these into 1-inch strips as well. All right, I'm going to set that aside. Okay, so it's been sitting for about 20 minutes. I'm going to take off these clamps, and I don't think I got mine. Well, if you did not get them even on the bottom, you can always take it down to your miter saw, or you could use your miter box and you can just cut. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to cut some to make this even, but you can skip this part if yours is straight. And once I got that nice and even, I went ahead and just sanded around just to get up any of that dried glue that smushed through the cracks. And I am going to paint this entire piece with the color Americauna, and this is a DIY cottage color. This is my favorite color. I love this color. And then on a soft chippy brush, I am going to take some clear wax and I'm going to go over that in spots. Then I'm going to take some crinoline and I am going to go over that wax we just put down. Next, I'm going to take some packing tape and I am going to just place that on top of that crinoline paint, which, by the way, is from DIY. And I'm going to rip that tape off. And it is going to give us a very beautiful chippy look. I decided to do it this way because I did not have any milk paint to try. I didn't have any candle wax to rub on there. So that clear wax actually worked out so much better than I thought it would. And I did one side first just to test to see if it worked, and it did. So I am going to proceed to the remainder of this and just have fun with it. Look at that. That is gorgeous. All right, and once I'm finished getting as much chippiness as I want, I'm going to go ahead and take a clear coat and I'm going to apply that all over. So I'm going to be using the Ephemeral type stamp collection from I.O.D. and I'm just going to peel off the pieces that I want and place it on this little flexible cutting mat from the Dollar Tree. And I'll trim out the mat as well just to make it easier to stamp. And I'm going to be using the color Stone Gray for the ink, and I am using the I.O.D. ink as well. And just stamp until my little heart can't stamp no more. And I'm just going to place these stamps on there, and I will immediately take a baby wipe and wipe off and clean off the ink just so it doesn't dry on my stamps. These are too expensive to be ruining, so definitely want to make sure you take care of them. And when I place the stamps down, I always make sure I have one hand holding it down. That way it doesn't move, because if it moves with those letters, you're just going to get a smudgy appearance, and we don't want that. And I'm just going to select different stamps out of this collection and just stamp away. I did dry it down with my heat gun in between flipping the piece around. And on this particular piece, I just wanted part of it. It didn't come off in sections like the other ones. So I stamped the part that I wanted and wiped off any excess that I did not want. So even if it's a huge stamp, you don't have to use the whole thing. You can just use a section of it. And that worked out perfectly in this instance. For the top of my pumpkin, I decided to use this little finial I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to take some water and Territorial Beige by Applebarrel and mix that together, making a stain. And with a paper towel, I'll just wipe off the excess. Next, I'm going to apply some clear wax to the finial. And after I wipe away the excess of that, I am going to take some brown wax and I'm just going to kind of rub it on or brush it on here and there, paying more attention to the creases than anything, and wipe off the excess. Unfortunately, my camera angle wasn't the greatest, but I do go ahead and put a hole, drill a hole in the top of the center just so I can put that finial down in. And then unfortunately, the hole was just a little too big, so I made sure I put some wood glue in that hole, a lot of it. When I pushed that finial in, I wanted it kind of seeping out a little bit just so I know it's going to hold, and then I'm going to let that dry overnight. And after that had a chance to dry overnight, I am going to take those strips of fabric that we cut and I'm going to tie them. And I found that tying them individually around the finial was the best way to go. I at first tried to tie them all together, but it was just way too bulky doing it that way. So again, I just tied them individually in a double knot. And once I get all those tied on there, well, almost all of them tied on there, I'm just going to trim them up. And then I had one piece of lace left and I decided I wanted to tie that in a bow. So I wrapped it around the finial, kind of tucking it under all those pieces that we already have on there, and then just tied it off in a bow. I want to add more to the top, but then I don't. I don't want to take away from how beautiful this is. So I'm going to call it quits on that.